Hi, I'm Mark Scarpa. I'm the founder of Defiance Media. Defiance Media is a 24/7 broadcast network dedicated for the DeFi generation, focusing on exclusive broadcast coverage of decentralized culture, finance, and technology. We currently reach 80 million homes globally via OTT, over the top, over the air, and connected devices. Um, I think really our mission statement here is to promote the adoption of what's happening in this current evolution with all of us in terms of us being cultural creatives, where it's no longer about, are you this demographic of person, this ethnical background, age, and so on. It's really about likes and interests. And, you know, culture is always going to fuel the growth of just new generations of people wanting to be creative and do things, as well as older generations recycling older ideas and still instituting new ideas. And what also fuels that growth are new financial instruments. And you're seeing with decentralized currency and DeFi, all of that happening. And we really haven't seen this in, before, but I would say it hasn't been since the early 90s that we've seen that type of growth in any sort of way, shape, or form. Our forward-thinking video content really covers a lot of areas in this vertical, which is leans a little bit towards fintech, but ultimately covers a few areas that aren't in fintech. But overall, we're looking at digital currencies, blockchain, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, robotics, biotech, connected living, alternative energy, social impact, and regenerative culture. All very important to the ecosystem that we're all a part of at the moment in time. We see that our mission statement is, in a way, solving a lot of the FUD that's in the marketplace. And that FUD has really hampered the growth of making everything accessible to every single consumer on the planet. There's certainly worldwide acknowledgement of certain financial instruments such as Bitcoin, but it doesn't mean that everybody on the planet owns Bitcoin. But it's growing every year, more and more. I would say we're looking at probably close to about 150 million people worldwide, 68 million verified user accounts in 6 years, or just with Coinbase alone. So maybe the number is actually quite higher. It could be more like 250 million people, or maybe 350 million people. We're between all of the different exchanges that exist, between Binance and Kraken and so on and so forth. So these are all things to take in mind. You have folks that are taking money out of the traditional banking system and putting it into DeFi. And then you have groups that are just completely DeFi all the way from day one, who don't even necessarily have a bank account. And then fueling the growth of these new innovations that are taking place, whether it be NFTs or other blockchain-based dApps and so on. So, that is a new paradigm shift that really is exciting for us. And there's a lot of great stories to tell, and there's a lot of interesting and creative people to cover. And our audience is primarily fresh thinkers, global-minded individuals, of course, early adopters and entrepreneurial enthusiasts, and crypto investors, of course, and so on. We also are a nationally accredited member of the media. We have a Getty editorial distribution agreement, and we're a proud member of the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. We have a variety of contributors. We have some premium content that we're doing with a variety of brands, and some, again, premium content contributors and so on. And we're seeing quite a lot of growth. We started earlier this year at 15 million homes. Now we're at 80 million homes. And by year's end, we'll be at 115 million homes. And by the end of Q1 of 2022, we will be at about 125 to 135 million homes globally, with the majority of them here in the United States. Our reach is really based upon the desire to embrace mass media and be that mass media voice for this ecosystem. And of course, we have VOD content. We're doing narrowcasting, and we're splicing content up. but it's ultimately about having that curated national voice or global voice, if you will, altogether. And that's why we find ourselves on digital TV and over the top, as well as iOS and Android and the desktop PC. So enough about Defiance Media. We're here to talk about metaverses and my feeling on metaverses and really media and video's role in metaverses. So my first experience with metaverses really goes back quite a long ways, having gone through the Web 1.0 generation and even early virtual reality worlds with companies like VPL Research and gaming companies like Virtuality. So this idea of the metaverse really comes from science fiction, if you will, things like William Gibson's Neuromancer and the like. So you're immersing yourself in this world that ultimately is taking you out of reality and connecting you to a new reality that's a shared reality with a variety of other people that you can do things in. And early virtual reality was definitely that, and connected virtual reality allowed you to do that as well. And that was things like the Virtuality gaming system, very basic system. You would have two pods, you can play against each other using HMDs, you can hear each other, you can see each other, meaning your avatars, and shoot at one another, as well as the dactyl that was flying overhead. That was all done on a local area network using Amiga 3000s. So here you have a shared connected universe that you're sharing together. You're in competition with one another as virtual gladiators, if you will, and you're battling each other as well as battling this artificial creature that's flying by and getting points all in the same process. So that was my first experience with quote unquote the metaverse. Then I guess it really came in terms of it being a visual experience. Then the next one was Doom. Doom being Doom 1.0, again a LAN game, local area network game, where you're in a group sharing an objective to kill aliens and go through this maze. And certainly it grew from there with Worlds of Warcraft and the gaming world in general. So the gaming world has really accelerated the metaverse, and we have to look at the early gaming universes in order to understand where we are today. Gaming has paved the way for these connected realities, and the entire industry is now more or less fueled by that innovation that came to bear back in the early 1990s. Something else that happened then, which most people don't really look at so much, is a gentleman by the name of Josh Harris created a company called Pseudo Programs Inc., and it was here in New York City at the time. And he was very much well known for Pseudo, Jupiter Interactive, and a variety of other projects. There was a movie made about him called We Live in Public, and he was always about these shared realities between humankind and the real world and the virtual world, sharing those two realities together. And what did the virtual world's pressures do to the real world people, and vice versa under certain circumstances? One project that he had that doesn't get much notoriety was called Launder My Head. And it really hits at the heart of what I'm talking about here, which is you can have avatars in a metaverse that represent yourself. But Launder My Head, which was a conceptual project done back in 1996, and a prototype was actually created that ran over local area network, allowed me to have an avatar of my body and video of my face projected on a head of a television screen. So all the heads within the Launder My Head environment were TV screens with my real world video face on it. And then of course the body was whatever you wanted to be, and we were all shared in an arena or other areas. And it was all based upon chat and conversation. There was no financial instruments for trade. It was really a barter system and information exchange, and just really took the idea of chat to the next level and made it more of a graphical experience. And, the ability to also have, FaceTime, if you will, before FaceTime with a recognizable person. So this idea of anonymity wasn't part of the experience. It was very much, this is me talking to you with my avatar in a virtual world. And that was what it was. It wasn't a Second Life type experience where I could have a creative expression of a whole new character and create that character from scratch and create my own universe from scratch. And, I think, at least with video within the metaverse, as it relates to what we're talking about today, this early idea is something that I think will be more widely adopted. And you're seeing it in projects like Eric Poulier's spatial web Vatom project, where you have a variety of connected metaverses. It's being used for, nonprofit, commercial, and educational purposes. But what's going on within his spatial web metaverse platform is really interesting, because not only is there a commerce element in the sense that you can create NFTs on the fly and have them available for sale immediately with other people. You can do augmented reality and XR extensions within the content that you're making inside the metaverse. But I can physically see you, the person, as the head of the character that you've created, and vice versa. So there is the option to create an anonymity, if you will, but there's also the option of just being you and representing you as who you are. And what's interesting about that in Launder My Head is that automatically it builds a trust. If I see something live and in real time, to me as a media creator, there's a lot more trust in that. Whereas anything that's edited, whether it's a video and or the written word, it's been manipulated from what was spoken as the words of the person delivering, that dialogue or that speech, if you will. So live video at this point is the only true media delivery system out there. And of course you can still manipulate that, but barring that from this conversation, it allows there to be an immediate trust within an environment that could potentially be trustless. And so I see that there's going to be a lot more acceleration of video integration and other mixed media within these metaverse environments. Then you start to look at, other applications of it. You've got filmmakers like David Lynch entering into the metaverse with NFT drops, with featuring Revive Interpol collaborations and so on. So it's a mixture of music and the metaverse with a brilliant filmmaker who's telling a story within the context of this environment that's completely virtual, that we're all sharing, and there's a commercial element to it, or a commerce element to it on an individual participatory basis. Now, it's not even reality, it's beyond reality, if you will. And that really flips the script on what you can actually do in the physical world. I can't fly in the physical world. I can't build a city in the physical world by myself. I can't, create monsters and characters in the physical world. I mean, I'm sure if I was an animator, I could do those things. But ultimately, it's about giving anyone, having them have the ability to express themselves, be empowered to do so, and be empowered to really make a living doing it, or go beyond making a living to really be successful in it. So I think that's really the interesting role of video, is building that trust and being a live environment. You look at Meta, which is obviously where Facebook is going now. Video and holograms are a big part of that strategy. And the reason for that is, again, I believe that what Zuckerberg's trying to do there is have a lowest common denominator of comfort and collaboration, while ensuring that people will use these new tools and helps drive commerce for the company. If I only had an animated version of someone, then do I really trust that it's them to begin with? Now we can get into the conversation of deep fakes and where that's going, but taking that out of the context of what we're trying to achieve here in this conversation, it's really, the asset of video is the fastest growing area of the commercial web right now, or just the web in general, or Web3. You have metaverses, but I think they'll be fueled with video as the pure driver, at least in the short term, for that growth. And projects like Meta are very, very interesting. And he's got the money, the resources to do something. Of course, ownership of your own, data as it pertains to the video that you're streaming is very important within that world. And of course, all of your activities within that world are tracked, unlike potentially the real world, depending upon which city you live in. So we're getting into a universe, if you will, that you can escape, but not escape if you don't want to, meaning escape from just reality and going into a virtual metaverse world for entertainment purposes, for work purposes, for social purposes, for a variety of other reasons. It could be health, it could be wellness, it could be exercise, it could be medical. There's just so much, so many applications. When you look at the field of telemedicine, now telemedicine has been around for a very long time, and telemedicine really didn't have a boom in business until the pandemic. And it's just very simple. You couldn't physically go see your doctor because there was a pandemic and hospitals were closed, and that was that. So you were using, the hospitals and doctors all started to adopt a variety of different telemedicine platforms in order for you to do virtual visits with them and tell them how you feel and so on. Well, when you look at telemedicine from the context of it being included and wrapped within a metaverse. So I still see my doctor still sees me, but now I'm in a metaverse that could be a replication of the hospital that I normally see her in, or it could be that I'm inside whatever the disease is, if you will, or inside the organ that I'm having trouble with. And the doctor, she can show me detail so I can have a better understanding of how to keep myself fit and why it's important. And that's really key. And then on top of it, within that metaverse environment, I can share that with other people, or I can create my own world around that. I could potentially even, maybe NFT my bones just for fun, or my virtual bones to help raise money for a procedure that I'm looking to get with regards to, a health concern. So, we're going into areas where people think that the metaverse is just for entertainment or just for gaming, but really, when you look at it, it's for everything. It is a complete replication of reality and unreality. So you can make it whatever you want it to be. And that's really what's key about what's going on right now. And there's a variety of different companies that are fueling that growth, from Batum all the way up to Meta. And I think, our role in all this as a media company and media with regards to, the metaverse in general, you're going to see, just like all the big news media companies eventually caught on to apps. It took them years. Like when apps first were introduced into the marketplace, you didn't see a CNN app right away, or a Fox app, or a ABC or CBS or NBC News app, or any of the sports apps. That all came later. They were slow to adopt. And now you have those apps in the marketplace because they had no choice but to do that. And they slowly learned that TV and digital, meaning big media and digital combined, makes for a better partner. But they're still architecting it with an older world mentality. And I think that's just attrition in terms of who's running those companies. Defiance Media is an all media company from the ground up. We're looking at all of that from the beginning, from the start, to really reinvent how media is consumed and mass media is consumed and shared, and how the participation of the audience is involved in that experience. So for us, looking at the metaverse, certainly we're going to introduce a metaverse complement to what we're offering here. And it will have features that will that will align with our ideals and with our mission statement is. And at the end of the day, we would use the metaverse as a way to aggregate content into our mass media distribution outlets. There's also checks and balances within the metaverse. You're looking at the ability for us to do real-time checks, if you will, on things that are happening there. So we can, in essence, tune into our own metaverse to make sure that it's really happening at that moment in time. People are having a conversation. It's about X, Y, and Z. It can be monitored and verified through sources, because the sources are there, and it goes back into our broadcast feed as a verifiable source, as opposed to, say, a tweet that could be from an anonymous account or a bogus account or a fake account that's only coming from one source. So sources are multiple people that are having different conversations about things in a variety of different ways. So that's really kind of key overall for media companies in terms of adopting the metaverse. They can't look at it as just another shiny new toy to integrate into their service offerings. They need to integrate it as a tool to tell stories. And if you're not going to do that, then don't do it. Just skip it and move on. There's no reason to use every single tool out there, use every single social media platform out there. If it's not right for your brand and your mission statement and what you're trying to do in terms of building a narrative, then use the tools that are right for you. Whether it might be, if you're using Facebook, use Facebook. If you're using Discord, use Discord, and own it and do it better than anybody else. For us, Discord, metaverse, these are areas that we're moving into. We very much see messaging platforms as the new social media environments, as opposed to existing social media. So we see those tools as ways to tell the story of the evolution of the industry in a much better way than it's being told right now. So with that, I wanted to just leave you with one final thought, which ultimately is, when you talk about immersion, think about a good conversation. When you have a good conversation with somebody, you are engaged and present, and you're completely present in what's happening and what they're saying at that moment in time. And being within the metaverse, there's really no difference. You need to stay engaged even within that space. And hopefully what we don't see is an increase in just transients floating through the metaverse. I think we're going to see that in the beginning, but to me, the video aspect of it will help anchor that element. And there's nothing wrong with folks flying around, but give the people anchored in terms of being able to have the acceleration of trust and storytelling. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of this conference and to participate. I really enjoyed it. I'll be available for any questions at marc@decentric.media. Thanks again. Bye-bye.